When you picture figure drawing, what do you see? A perfectly chiseled man surrounded by artists sketching in charcoal, classical music playing, 8-hour-long poses, and perfectly realistic portraits. Most people see figure drawing as formal and hardworking practice. And while we are hardworking, in the figure drawing sessions that I've attended for 2 years, the air is filled with playful chatter and classic rock music. Figure drawing. What is it? Figure drawing is an important practice for artists to master. Traditional figure drawing gives us base knowledge, gesture drawing teaches us how to capture energy, and the uses of these learned skills are infinite. So traditional figure drawing, where did we begin? What did we learn? Back during the Renaissance, figure drawing was new, but strides were already being made. Although nudity had already been around in art for quite a while, the point with gesture drawing, as stated by Thomas Martin in a 2013 collection of essays titled A Companion to Renaissance and Baroque Art, was to show an artist's mastery of nature, which clothes would only obscure. Martin continues to say that the spread of life drawing through art, the popularization of life drawing through artists like Michelangelo, institutionalized the nude model in the education of artists, making drawing from the nude model the basis of academic art instruction. Figure drawing is the building block for us to understand drawing as a whole. We as artists should practice drawing the proportions of the human figure accurately, said Paula Guhin in her 2007 article, Shed Some Light on Figure Drawing. When we draw a model without clothes in comparison to with, we learn many important things, such as how light reflects across the skin and what proportions make up the human body. Once we've learned these skills, the process becomes a lot easier. Published in Week UK edition, the article Exhibition of the Week, David Hockney, Drawing from Life, tells us about how David Hockney underwent years of enforced practice drawing nude models, a discipline which left him with a fluency and confidence in capturing immediate reality. This confidence takes years to develop, but you will see that in your other areas of art, things have improved. So I've given you the basis of traditional figure drawing. Now let's move on to gesture drawing. Gesture drawing is when you figure draw as fast as possible. This usually takes place in brief time frames, from 5 seconds to 1 or 5 minutes. The purpose of this is to capture energy. Quoted from Barbara Herberholz in her article, Figure Drawing, you want to capture how the figures run, jump, push, and move. The way that you draw influences how energetic or alive the drawing feels. And however you draw, things could vastly change. Let's say that we want to add a feeling of weight to our drawing. Let's make things darker. Or say we want to make things feel a little lighter. Let's make things more spacious. In the film David Kentridge, Art from the Ashes, David Kentridge talks about how artists, particularly cartoonists, have a high understanding of how to draw human posture, which they use small details in order to capture a special feeling of position. Now, my favorite thing to capture in gesture drawing is exaggeration. With exaggeration, we capture the energy and feeling of a pose. Now, let's take a look at some of mine. We call this pushing the pose. You want to make the arms longer, the waist more bent, the face angrier. Learning anatomy is important, but if you spend too much time on your pose, it becomes stiff. And if we humans were constantly stiff, we'd look like robots. So I've given you information about traditional figure drawing and gesture drawing. Now let's move on to the uses. Stylization is everywhere in art. Going back to the Renaissance, while nudity was the goal, through the growth of Impressionism, stylization came into view. According to the International Encyclopedia of Social Sciences, Realism, written in 2008, the greater legacy of realism was to free artists to paint more sincerely, that is, from their own personal vision, which was indicated by a highly individualized style, which often loosely treated it as if the performance of representation was more important than the actual subject matter being represented. A place ripe with stylization is animation. Think about your favorite animated movies, TV shows, video games. And every single one of these, every single artist who's ever worked on these has experience with figure and gesture drawing. Knowing figure drawing lets you make a cool model of a character. Knowing exaggeration lets you make a funny but smooth animation of a character falling. You can draw a human with real emotions, not even needing words to show what they feel. Now, finally, our last place to talk about uses here is fine art. Fine art is classified as landscape painting, portraiture, abstract art, etc. And in all of these, it benefits the artist to have previous experience with life drawing. You need to know figure drawing in order to draw a human body. You need to know all these skills in order to paint a landscape, anything. I really mean it when I say that as an artist, figure drawing is everywhere. And whether your art is realistic or stylized, it benefits you to learn from the best source possible, the human body. So today, I've talked to you about figure drawing and why it's so important. We've talked to you about the origins, how and why we use traditional figure drawing. We've ventured to gesture drawing to see what we can learn through speed. And finally, we've seen the uses of these skills in everyday life. Now, when you think of figure drawing, it might seem a little bit intimidating, but we all learn these skills, and maybe one day you will too.